Healing Center and Shop. You know what happens is they made this beautiful thing with a big welcome sign for me to come back. And of course, as we all know, this is the Wei Chi Healing Center and Shop. And we're going to talk about who and what is Wei Chi. But what happens is, welcome to the Wei Chi Center. I keep on looking at the board, and instead of saying the Wei Chi Healing Center and Shop, I keep on saying, welcome to the Wei Chi Center. I just realized, I said, why do I keep on dropping healing out of this every time I walk up here to introduce somebody or talk about something? I said, that's why. I just want to let people know that we have several other talks going on today, ending with a guided meditation tonight. And we have a calendar of events out there, and we have a number of services, and we have a blank spot at 3:30 as somebody was ill. So that's a to be announced. So if you're here at 3:30, stick around and find out what I'm going to pull out of midair for you. Because I'll pull out something. Or somebody. Maybe I'll have somebody talk about sound healing. Or polarity. Or massage. Or who knows. I'll find somebody. Anyways, again, my name is Dr. Kevin. I want to welcome you. And I want to talk a little bit about who and what is Wei Chi. How many people here are familiar with the concept of Wei Chi at all? Is there anybody who's like completely null void? Okay, good. So, I'm going to start with the who part of who is Wei Chi. And pardon me, because I realized I didn't set my timer because I could talk for the next 3 days and not realize that it was my turn to get off stage. So I do want to set that so that I will know, without you having to all get up and walk out on me, that you're tired of hearing me. And we want to welcome today Matt. I'm going to completely blank. Trish. I was going to say, Trish, give me another second, I would have made it. Matt and Trish, I want to welcome Matt and Trish from IPM Nation, who are doing a live recording of the show today. The first thing I want to go over is I want to talk a little bit about who Wei Chi himself was. Because Wei Chi is not a mythical figure, he was a figure who actually lived. He walked the earth plane 5,000 years ago, more or less, in a part of the earth called Tibet, what we would call Tibet today. Back then they didn't call it Tibet. I can tell you what they called it back then, but it wouldn't make any sense to you because it would be like, because who speaks what they spoke 5,000 years ago? Most of us can't remember what we spoke 5 minutes ago. Let alone 5,000 years ago. So he lived in a place called Tibet, and he was a Tibetan shaman. It was him and a group of other shamans that evolved into what we thought of as the Tibetan monasteries. Anybody ever heard of the Tibetan monasteries? Yeah, we're familiar with those today, those Tibetan monasteries. But back way before the monasteries even started, what you had is you had a group of shamans that were running around. And we were at a very interesting time period in history. The time period we were in history was we had come to the end of the Atlantean Age. Is there anybody here who has not heard of Atlantis? The idea of Atlantis, the concept, you all know what Atlantis, when I talk about Atlantis is? We came to the edge of at the end of the Atlantean Age. The destruction of Atlantis had left the energies of some guides and some people that were supposed to be shepherding the transition for the earth plane to be taken over by humanity. So that transition of, we had these Atlanteans who were almost acting like an overseer for the planet, while humanity was coming out into the planet and making itself known. And when Atlantis went into self-destructive mode and left that, there were energies left behind that were guides. And we see evidence of those guides. We see evidence of that in many of the oldest cultures of recorded history. For any of you who like the idea of Atlantis or Lemuria or all that ancient stuff, I do recommend my book, Experiment Earth, Journey Back to the Beginning. You can get it out there today. That goes through all of this and those journeys. But what we're picking up is Atlantis self-destructs, but there is this knowledge and set of overseers who are bringing forth to try to not lose everything that had been on the earth plane. We see it show up in the Mayans, the Toltecs. We see it in the Babylonians. We see it in the ancient Chinese. We see it in the Egyptians, the cradle of civilization. before recorded history, when we are finding more and more evidence. How did the pyramids get created? Evidence of successful brain surgeries that were being done 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, where they have found skeletons where actually it shows that a precision object cut into a skeleton, into a brain, did some healing, did something, and then it reclosed, and that person went on to live for years afterwards. They were doing successful brain surgery 4,000 or 5,000 years ago in these ancient civilizations, which we look at as, early man. That these were people who, basically, were trying to discover what fire was. Well, there were some of those running around on the planet during this transition, but we also had this high level of people that were trying to bring this forward. In that area of Tibet, that was particularly one of those light areas, as were some regions of Central America, South America, the Cradle, parts of China, where we saw that there were certain places in the earth, maybe vortexes, the energy, whatever, that seem to be the holders of that information, the keepers, so to speak, the keepers of the information, the transition. And they were rooting those into humanity. In Tibet, what Wei Qi has told us is that things like herbology, aromatherapy, all sorts of different things that have showed up throughout history, a lot of the ancient knowledge was placed in these shamans at that time. And in that time, placing that energy into the shamans, they were to be introducing it into the consciousness, and that they would show up repeatedly through history in different ways and in different formats. And so as that came on, Wei Qi was the one that received, I kind of almost look at a little bit of as a coordinator at this point, interestingly, not a way that I've always seen him. But as they were starting to come together and work in that which became the monasteries, it was like people who were coming in and they were drawn to be healers for humanity. They were those people that were halfway between the old order and the new order, that were there to be the shepherds, but needed to be reminded, needed to learn, need to awaken that knowledge, that information. As those things were happening and those things were going on, Wei Qi got the holder of the information of a system that combined a direct connection to Master. Master is that which he calls, we would call the God-Goddess energy. He referred to it as Master. That's the closest word that he could give us in our today language for it. And that it was so palpable that energy was, you could be walking down the hills and having a conversation as if Master was standing beside you and answering you. That the communication with these people that were doing the transition was so powerful. Now, did God take a physical form, what we would call God or Master take a physical form? That is not what he was saying. But literally, today, how many people here have ever prayed? Or something somewhere along the way. Okay? How many people here have ever done prayer or was explained how to do prayer in a format that I would call monologue? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, please have been good. Amen. In monologue. There's no dialogue. The funny thing is, the reason why prayer doesn't work for a lot of people is because they don't shut up, so that when the answer comes they can hear it, so they'll know what to do. Here it is. Here's my problem. Wow, I can't wait to see how you're going to make this one work. Give it up, and then shut up and hear what the answer is. No, it's a one-way street. We just shut stuff out into the universe, and we don't really expect a response. We're not taught to expect a response. We have been taught and conditioned the response are going to come from the priests, the holders, the keepers of the sacred information. What are they going to do? They're going to go back to something that was written a few thousand years ago and try to interpret it to fit into your problem. And they're doing a human interpretation of something that was written a long time ago. Over and over and over and over and over again in many different languages with many different people influencing what was being said in the text. So, in Wei Qi's day though, you had a question? Master, tell me about this. Curiosity. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. That was the kind of relationship. As they came together, and this goes back to the definition that is going to go over here that we always talk about, is that to truly help somebody heal, what we are talking about is the process of empowering one to heal oneself. The process of empowering one to heal oneself. And that all of the things that were coming down at that time for these shamans were things that were guidance in nature, education in nature, helping people connect in nature to their own connection to the divine, that their own connection to source, to master, that this is what was going on. And that their job was to do things like instruct and work with people in a format so that people could become self-healing. And in doing that, in people becoming self-healing, self-aware. And I want to give you that definition to be really clear, because we kick the word around a lot. Healing. I teach all my students. Healing. To make whole. That's all healing is at the end of the day. It is pushing people into their wholeness, to being more of who they are here to be. When you are in wholeness, there is no place for illness. There is no place for disease. Now, if you come in a lifetime to learn what it is like to have the history of a certain limitation or a disease, if you came in a lifetime to be blind because you wanted the experience of what it was like to be blind in a very sight-oriented thing, that is a soul experience that you came in to learn. You came in to learn to be blind, and what that meant, and what those experiences were. So, saying, oh, well, how can you make somebody whole if they don't have sight? That is you deciding what whole means for them. Their wholeness in a lifetime may be to be blind. And they're the ones that probably came up. Papa always used the saying. I always loved this. I'm sure he got it from somebody else, but I don't know who, so I always say Papa gave it to me. There are none so blind as those who choose not to see, my father would always say. Okay? So, in a lifetime, somebody's wholeness might be to be blind. But when we do healing, the process of empowering one to heal oneself, we are pushing them into their ultimate level of wholeness of who they are here to be in this lifetime. Who is it to be Trish in this lifetime? Who is it to be Matt or Stephen or Andrew? Who is it to be that person? Not who people expect you to be, not who you got conditioned to be, not who you thought your limitations were, you're supposed to be, have to be, couldn't be. Who were you here to be? And pushing you towards that makes you whole. Disease and illness, bad luck, bad lives are happening because you're not traveling in that wholeness. And those things come to you in order to invite you to learn and grow from those experiences to become more, because what you're doing is you are becoming more of who you are here to be. You expand into more of yourself. Matt does not know who he is as a skydiver if he's never skydived. He can imagine who he might be. He might be, I'm going to be like one of those cats on the poster that's gone off the cliff going, I made a mistake. Can we go back up? Oh, no.
Most likely, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Or maybe not. Maybe he thinks he's going to be that way. He jumps out. He's like, well, you know what? There's only one direction now. And he pulls the cord, and a whole new map expands. A whole new experience, a whole new reality. And the map that hits the ground was an expanded version of the map that left the plane. Those who really live life are always jumping out of the next plane. That is what living is. It is jumping out of the next plane. I was, Matt's one of the co-hosts on the Norm Show, and I was on the Norm Show this week with him earlier, shamelessly self-promoting the event. I think to a little irritation maybe there on the side from Norm.
He'll get over it.
But, this woman calls in, and Norm will do intuitive readings. We'll, get hits. Sometimes we'll ask his guests to get hits as well. And she's like, I want to know what lies before me or whatever. What's next in my life? We're talking to the woman, Matt's talking, I'm talking, Norm's talking, I'm talking. You don't talk to the guests too much unless you're giving them a hard time.
Exactly.
He knows his role. And it comes out that the woman is 88 years old, and she wants to know what lies in her future. What do you get excited? 88! That's somebody who's living. That's somebody who's moving forward. And that means that at 88, she's still trying to get to whole. She knows there are still experiences out of there. She's looking, okay, give me that next plane. Where's my next plane to jump out of? I ain't dead yet. And yet I will find people who are 28 that are already dead. They're alive, but they're dead. There are no new planes. Everything is exactly how it has to be or supposed to be. And they can't step out of there. And if a new plane goes by, they're like, what's that? No. And they live their life in fear, which is why they do not live their life. No, we grab fear, we look at fear, we befriend fear. When I find something that brings up fear in me, I go, oh yeah, I recognize you, you're an old friend. Sit down, let's have a beer, let's talk about it. So why are you here this time? I figure if I get fear drunk enough, it can pass out and I can leave it at the bar and I can go home. And this lifetime has given me an extremely high alcohol content ability, which tells you about the number of fears I faced in my lifetime. I can outdrink fear now. I'm not sure that came out right.
We know what you meant.
Yeah. So, in the system that Wei Qi was given, the first introduction we had to it in 1995 became the Wei Qi system of natural healing, which parts of it look like today elements of what we call Reiki, because it has that hands-on component, channeling of energy, and it had the use of symbols as a way to open and focus the energy. Now, what we found out is that that was a very small part of a very larger system, which made sense to me as Wei Qi was explaining it and kind of putting that energy out of, Reiki is not very Eastern-oriented as a healing system. Because Eastern healing systems tend to be more oriented, excuse me, there's one left, there's a couple of handouts left for love recipes from Herbs, Love, and Lust for anybody who wants them afterwards. It's the presentation. The Reiki that we got called Usui Reiki tended to be very symptom-oriented. It tended to be, as we originally got it in this country, via Hawaii, via Usui. It tended to be very symptom-oriented, very passive. Wei Qi came through and said, This system in its originality, that this was taken from as a small piece and brought into a culture that, Wei Qi was the first one to say, probably, 1950s America could only handle that much of the system. We all know what a enlightened and flexible, embracing place that America is on some levels. It embraces you as long as you agree to participate in its view of the world. Sometimes. That's not completely fair. But we keep on bringing them in and we keep changing, so we have to give ourselves a lot of credit. Anyways, but the symptom-oriented and the passive, Wei Qi said, well, first of all, what is the cause? Not the symptom. And any Eastern modality looks at causes. What are the causes? What is creating the problem that is existing? It's not symptom-oriented, it's cause-oriented. You go to somebody who does Chinese herbalism, or shiatsu, acupuncture. They're looking at what was the cause that created a problem, and the cause that's created the problem in your right elbow might be in your left toe. It might be in a dietary choice. It might be in how you sit. They're not just trying to make the right elbow feel better, they're trying to figure out why does the right elbow feel bad, and not just Band-Aid it. We have a tendency to do a lot of Band-Aiding in Western culture, in Western medicine, and we have shifted that. We are actually getting a little better, dragging and screaming, and the fact that now that New Age and alternative and supplements and stuff like that is $1 billion industry, we have caught the attention of mainstream, how can I make money, America. And so now they're saying, okay, well maybe we want to do a little preventative medicine along the way, because we make money off of it now. We could only make money off of it before if they were already sick and we had to fix them. But now we can make money off preventative medicine in some way, so we'll do that. So he said symptom-oriented, and the person has to agree to participate in their own healing. Because if you do not agree to participate in your own healing, is it going to happen? Can anybody force you to stretch into wholeness and into a greater self? Can they? Anybody here think that anybody can force you to do it? That's because you never sat across the table from me. No. No, I cannot force you to do it. I can invite you to do it. I can hand you the tools. I can help you develop the skill sets. I can try to share the journey with you. But you have to do it. And I have people that I'm sitting in this room with right now, and I'm not going to look or say anything, that I have taken those tools sometimes, and I have whacked them up the head of them to see if they'll take the tool themselves. But I can't force them. Can't make them. All I can do is offer them. And I can offer Matt this dry eraser like that. Dry erase writer like this, or I can offer it from like this. Either way, sometimes I will only get Matt's attention if I do it like that. He goes, hey! And when he looks around, he goes, oh, there's the answer. I was looking at it for over here. Thanks, I think. How important was the answer? So in the Wei Chi, we bring back everything that is Wei Chi. And originally it started as the natural system of healing. And then as that really got its roots, it started to move on, and I started turning out some students and then some practitioners, and now I'm working to turn out some teachers in that system. Wei Chi turned his eyes outward, in a way, and started, as I'm now calling it, Wei Chi-sizing other things to meet this definition of how to use other things, or how to see other things, or have a different perspective. Later today, I'm going to be talking about the Wei Chi version of chakras, which is going to be different than anything you've ever been exposed to for chakras. For those of you who have a familiarity with chakras, you ain't never looked at them like this. And I've had people in that have studied chakras, do chakra healings, have read every chakra book out there, and I'll talk to them for 5 minutes, and they go, oh, what? They'll pick up a part. They go, I've heard that, or this, but yeah, no, not so much. There's a little piece here, a little piece there. Not that all of this information, or some of this information hasn't been out there. I mean, it's all been out there at some point or another. But sometimes it gets lost, and then sometimes it has to gravitate back in. So now I'm starting to turn out practitioners to do the Wei Chi chakra healing style. We are also in, the intuitive tarot, because my background years ago, I mean, I started as a professional psychic in the 70s. I was in a crib, and if and the answer was yes, if my rattle went left, and the answer was no if it went right. I was obviously still in the crib in the 70s. But, I started as a professional psychic. When I came back 20 years ago and I left corporate world, the first thing I did when I got the message that I needed to return to my roots, that it was time for me to come back and work with my natural gifts, first thing I did was I went back to become a psychic, because that's what I knew. And I learned very quickly that being a psychic wasn't necessarily empowering, and my background, even before Wei Chi came into the picture, was, I gave more of the, you give a man a fish, he eats for a day, you teach him to fish, he eats for a lifetime. And in the corporate world, I was all about training and troubleshooting and developing managers to be better managers and creating better systems. There was no accident. I got dragged into the corporate world for 12 years and learned how to create systems and training departments and how to teach and how to work from understand that people learn differently and need to be taught and need to have things presented differently and need to interact differently. All of that was my internship from the corporate perspective into when I came back and said, no, sitting at a table and saying that, no, I don't see the man of your dreams coming this week, but come back next week, lay silver across my palm, and maybe I'll see him then. Yeah, it wasn't working. Wasn't my idea. Well, the silver part was the idea of a good time. But the integrity was getting to me. And I could never be out of integrity even back in the 70s. I'd be one of those like, hey, look, that's what I got. You don't like it? Not my problem. Pay up and leave. Tact, I'm still working on in this lifetime. I don't expect to make anything called tactful in this lifetime really happen. I don't think it's part of my wholeness. I think to be tactless is part of the wholeness that we know and love as Dr. Kevin. And I can own and be happy with that. So in doing that, now, you know, through the years, I've taught Tarot classes. I know Tarot, you know, I love the Tarot. I don't use it because it's too slow for me, because when I get into a psychic space to give people information, the cards can't come up fast enough for me. That's why I stopped using them after 18 decks of someone saying, I must have the wrong deck. I must have the wrong deck. Something wrong with this deck. Because I'd be shuffling the deck, and I'd be talking to the person what was going on in their life, and they'd say, and then I'd finally turn a card over, and they'd say, what did it say? What I just said. And I'd just keep talking to them, then I'd start shuffling again. I'd go, there's something wrong with this deck, it's not keeping up with me. But beautiful artwork. Love the art of Tarot. My significator, for those of you who know Tarot, is the Magician. Big surprise. I'm actually going to take all my decks someday. I'm going to take the Magician card out of all of them, and I'm just going to create a work of art. There's just all of these different representations of the Magician. But Wei Chi recently stuck his hands into there and said, Tarot is a divination tool that can be used as a healing tool. And so we went back to this definition with a little help from Wei Chi and a lot of help from me. We put together, now we're starting to teach Wei Chi intuitive Tarot healing classes, where we've actually given it a structure and a form of how to use the Tarot and the divination of the Tarot as a way to offer healing to a client. And in that, we are still doing one of the things, which is completely mandatory in anything that is Wei Chi, as long as I'm living and breathing, unless control is wrestled for me by Crystal Blake, Harrington, or something. Was nobody alive in the
Dynasty?
A Dynasty! I did a Dynasty reference and nobody got it.
Took me a second, but.
Alexis was always trying to get the control room. Crystal was supposedly one of the nice ones.
Oh, she was the perky blonde everyone was supposed to like.
Right.
Okay.
Linda Evans, yeah.
Yeah. No, I like Joan Collins. She was my kind of girl. Yes!
That's
Oh, sorry.
Alexis.
Yeah, I really can't remember. I actually didn't even watch the show. This is a leftover. When the show was on, they used to have Dallas and Dynasty nights that you would go to before you went out to the bar. Where you'd all get together and watch it, and then go out to the bar afterwards was the big thing. So I just like go out to the bar first, so that I could like ignore what was on the TV, and then go out to the bar afterwards. Different story. Anyway. But to be Wei Chi, there has to be an aspect of it that is providing the opportunity for the person to have new tools and to develop skills on how to use those tools in a self-applying way. In a self-applying way. So now we're looking at the fact that we have started to roll out how to use that tool of Tarot and develop a skill which creates wholeness, where we tap into that intuitive. Because in the Wei Chi system of natural healing, not only is that energy work we associate with Reiki, not only is there initially the use of the symbols, which actually were only created as place markers within the cellular and cellular memory to be awakened when you come into a lifetime where part of your lifetime is to be a healer of that kind. So if it was in, Trish, if it was in your lifetime to do that energy work, and I attuned you, it would awaken something in you. If it was not, even if Matt had done it in another lifetime, and I did an attunement on him, it would just water off the back of a duck. Because it's not part of his wholeness in this lifetime. Maybe Matt only came in and got the attunement because you whined him to death, and he's like, okay, do it. And Trish's going, it's amazing, it's amazing. You know, you're going to light up like a Christmas tree, and your hands are going to activate, and the walls are going to shake, and you're going to shimmy like my sister Kate when you get his attunement. Matt gets the attunement and goes, next. Because it wasn't part of his path. It wasn't his part of wholeness. But for those who are, those symbols we associate, for those of you who are familiar with Reiki, were really focus tools and placeholders that we awaken that you have done this before. And that's what they are. And so in the natural system of healing, and there are people out here today offering Wei Chi clinic treatments, which is just a modified, kind of an introductory version where you can experience what it's like to get one and know. Because in the system itself, it's done as a treatment series of treatments, a series of 2-hour treatments, with what I think the pinnacle treatment is the 7-treatment series, where you go in and you set a goal. The person that is your practitioner helps you refine that goal and bring that goal and attach it to something that needs to change on a core level for you to achieve the goal. And make sure that you are going for a goal that you can achieve or get at least in the process of achieving so you can attach to it and move towards it. And then works with you on identifying what needs to shift. What do you need to release? What do you need to embrace? What do you need to transmute or transform within your energy, within your emotions, within your belief systems, your ideas, your life, in order to achieve this goal that you have decided you would like to achieve. So it is all about you, and in between each session you are lovingly given homework so that you can work as hard on you. Some people here are laughing because they have received homework in this format. So that homework will move you forward because you must participate in your own healing. You have to be part of the process. And that homework keeps you as part of the process and keeps you moving forward. And then you come in, and as you're doing the homework, and that person is working with you, though you do not obviously see you're getting tools, you start to pick up some of the tools. I always tell my practitioner students, when your client comes in on the 4th or 5th session, and they say, yeah, this is kind of what happened in my life, blah, 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 and they start to say, yeah, I know, and I looked at, and you see that they've started to give themselves homework. You've given them a tool. When they're willing to apply it and make change, and how to use that tool or how to understand what that means, you're helping them develop that skill. The Wei Chi treatment series comes to a conclusion by, in the 7-treatment series, treatment 6, you review, where have I come? Where did I want to go? How far have I come? Now that I've come that far, did I achieve it? Am I closer to achieving it? Is it kind of right there for me to achieve or not? And now that I'm this close, do I still want it? Maybe it wasn't what I thought it was. It's like that person at midnight, at Saturday night, across the crowded room, in the darkened bar, that you swore was Jennifer Aniston, or Angela Jolie, or Brad Pitt. And your goal was, I'm going to bring that person home. And you get close to him and go, it's Mo Howard from the Three Stooges. It's Joan Rivers after her last facelift. Okay? So sometimes you get close to a goal and go, yeah, not quite what I thought it was. Maybe I need another drink. I keep on going back and making alcohol preferences. That's because alcohol is intoxicating. Fantasy is intoxicating. Talking about who you would like to be is intoxicating. Talking about what life would be like when you win the lottery, when you meet the spouse of your dreams, when you find your vocation, when you find that which makes your life twirl. It's intoxicating. And then the hangover comes when you wake up the next morning and nothing has changed because you haven't done any work to change it. Because when you get to a place at a certain level of intoxication, the hangover is guaranteed. That's why, so often, and I'm going to say this, both in the traditional community and in the New Age spiritual community, there are a lot of people selling cheap booze. And cheap booze gives you the worst hangover. Because it's got the highest sugar content. And they sugar you right up, and they tell you all the wonderful things you are, and then they send you home and say, and tell yourself 28 days you're wonderful, and you'll be wonderful, and life will be wonderful, and everything will be wonderful. And if it's not, then you screwed up and you did something wrong, so come back and pay me again, and I'll give you another one, and another 28 days, you'll come back again. And you'll do that until you run out of money or you smarten up. But they're not holding you accountable to your life. They're not holding you accountable to make changes. They are not giving you tools and skills. They're giving you a bunch of high sugar alcohol, and you wake up with a hangover. Does that make sense to people? And there are a lot of people these days that are running around with hangovers. Hangovers from the government that was always going to take care of them, a Wall Street that they could trust, corporations that were going to take care of them until they retired with gold watches, banks as a safe place to put their money, houses as a safe investment, that they could trust the government that their food would be safe, that they would be honest and taken care of, that there would not be any, that somehow Big Brother would take care of you. And then the hangover came. Because you bought a lot of sugar and a lot of cheap booze. And you got hungover because you didn't want to see. Intoxication built the bubble that burst. Because people didn't want to take responsibility. In Wei Qi, part of it is, and will always be, a process. Sorry guys. Oh, and I have one. I have one available. No magic wands! I gotta bring this on the Norm show one of these days.
Yeah, he'd love it.
No magic wands! Here, you're healed, you're a fairy princess now. Oops, I'm sorry, I just made you a fairy. We can get the princess part. Batteries. No. No magic wands. It's a process. There's work involved. I can't sit you with an inanimate object in a room and have you pay me enough money to make that inanimate object make your life work for you, no matter how magical the object. I can't give you something simple that's just going to erase it all. If one more person, I don't do expos anymore. I don't go out, a lot of my time is mostly spent working with serious people that want to make serious change, teaching and writing books. But there was a day when I would go to these expos, and there'd be 200 people at these expos, and each one had a magic elixir. It would cure cancer, AIDS, it would walk your dogs, brush your hair for you, do everything. And of course you had to buy 4 bottles a month. Minimum. In order for it to do it. Or there was this magic product here. There was a stone that you could sit with, or a crystal skull, or a chant that you didn't understand the words of, or something. But I found very few of them were talking about, so, got a crappy life. Well, so why'd you create that for yourself? You want to talk about why you created it, what are you getting out of it, how it serves you? And when we figure out why it's serving you, can we figure out what would serve you better? And then are you willing to do the work to get to that place? Or is that pile of crap just warm and comfortable? And you want to lay right there, and complaining about it is really easy. We are manifestors. We are little pieces of God on earth. I would say, man seems to not be able to strike the balance. We have half of mankind, or 3/4 of mankind, that cannot claim their divinity. They cannot claim that they are God on earth. Then we have 1/4 that figured out they were God on earth, but along the way, they took the blue pill and decided they were everybody else's God on earth as well. Okay? And so then they start telling you how you need to bow at the altar of their God, which is some version of them. And then that person that's bowing at their altar wants them to go get other people to help bow at their altar, because the person with the most bowing people has the largest collection plate at the end of the day. The collection plate may be money, it may be power, it may be adoration, but it's still a collection plate. Giving to somebody else so you don't have to bother to claim your own God on earth. Your own divine self, your own ability as a creator and a co-creator. And if what's on in your life is crap, you gotta look at how you co-created it. And why you like rolling in it so much. And when you tell me my life's always been like this, I'm like, oh, that must be a nice, comfortable, familiar place to be, isn't it? Feels just like home. You want to sit and look. Could I, every time I talk about, some people, they can fall in a bucket of crap and come up smelling like a rose. Me, I fall in the bucket and I just swim there. Well, maybe you look. On that bucket, does it say home? In wrapping down, process of empowering one to heal oneself. Empowering, I define my definition of empowerment is the power to be uniquely who you are without apology. If you do not add the without apology, you're not getting it. Because we are trained to apologize every time we step in our power, because every time we step in our power, we tick off somebody else, because somebody else either resents the fact that we're in our power and they're not, or they look that by us being in their power, that power is a limited supply, and that means if you are in your power, then I'm getting cheated because I can't be in mine. When people are truly in their power, and they can share, and that power is never your power or my power, the powers come together in dance. There is no power struggles when you are truly and centeredly in your power. The problem is, the people who are most in their power have the least desire to grab power and to be in positions of power because they see illusions of it. So people who are not in their power and feed their own ego and value and self-worth by having positions of power are the ones that are least able to handle it. And they become power hungry and they make mistakes and they think power is having power over other people. You have to think like I think, you have to pray like I pray, you have to act like I act. And those people often gravitate to very large, powerful positions. They become the dictators because they are driven by that power, because they look at that they only have value in that hunger for power, and it's a hunger that will never be fed because it's just like eating something that has a lot of calories and great flavor and no nutrition. You will be sick as a dog at the end of the day if that's all you eat. And there is no nutrition in false power. There is only a hunger that calls to itself. So the process of empowering one to heal oneself. I've been doing this Wei Chi work for almost 16 years. It's had its ups, it's had its downs. I knew, and I had to remind myself at times that when the time is correct, this would surge up in a larger and larger way. But until the world was ready for it, it wasn't going to happen. And I would have, through the years, little groups that would get very enthused about it, and they got to a certain level where they couldn't quite push through their own stuff to be where they needed to be in order to really help other people push in their stuff. And I had little camps of Wei Chi people in New Orleans for a while, and I've had them in Columbia, South Carolina for a while, and I had some in Colorado Springs for a while, I had some in Geneva for a while, I had some in England for a while. And they kind of come up and then they reach this point where, yeah, I can't go any further than that. This Wei Chi Healing Center and Shop was created as the first of something that is going to be replicatable, is the goal, to create campuses for the Wei Chi School of Natural Healing, which we're in the process of launching and putting together as a solid curriculum, to offer people who have services and messages and education and things that fall into this. It does not have to be Wei Chi. People that work in the center do not have to have studied with me. Oftentimes, people that start to get drawn into the center find that at some point they do want to study with me. That's okay as well, or one of my students. But as this is being created, it is being created, and it's the first time that I put Wei Chi on anything, because now is the time. We are in an extremely chaotic place. There are lots of changes coming up. People are dodging left and right as false gods are falling on top of them. The government will take care of me, the corporation will take care of me, my doctor will take care of me, everybody will take care of me. Take care of me, take care of me, take care of me. And everybody has supported, I'll take care of you, I'll take care of you, I'll take care of you. I start working with clients, first time I meet them, one of the things I say is, I don't do victims, and don't whine. If you start whining, I'm going to cut the session in half and charge you twice as much. But the third session, I'll just kill you and put us both out of our misery. The world is ready for Wei Chi. Wei Chi is also the last hexagram in the I Ching. And it means to bring order out of chaos. Bring order out of chaos. We have created this center to help bring order out of chaos, to bring together a community of light workers, as much as I hate that term, a community of people who want to do empowered healing, that this sinks to their soul and it resonates in the work they do. The ones who make it happen are the ones who are ready. The ones who keep on wanting to make it happen and can't quite get there, they're struggling with being empowered themselves. Because how can you be empowering to other people if you're not willing to go through the process of being self-empowered? If you can't walk in a self-empowering place, how can you show other people how to take those footsteps? And I tell everybody that if you get involved with Wei Chi, in varying degrees, with the system of natural healing being the one that still to me is the pinnacle, you get in the trenches with your client. If you're not willing to go into their level of health with them and show them the way, sometimes pick them up and throw them over the back of your shoulders when they can't walk, and then as soon as they can walk, dump them right back on that ground and make them fire dance. But if you're not willing to do the core, and a lot of times in the New Age spiritual community, people are not willing to do the core work with their clients. They'll just do, I don't want to really get in their stuff. I don't want to be a psychotherapist. Good, don't be a psychotherapist. I don't want to be a counselor. Well, good, don't be a counselor. But if you really want to help them, they have to make core changes. And that means that there's going to be some mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual processes involved. Whatever piece is missing is the piece they're not going to get and the place they're not going to be able to go. I have got the high sign. My bell went off. I had 5 more minutes. I took 7. They have to clear the room because we're having belly dancing for the soul next. The belly dancing for the soul. So stay tuned for that. And if you have any questions that you'd like to ask me privately, because I know they need to reset the room. So everybody that's sitting in a chair, if you could flatten your chair up, put it against the wall, I'd appreciate it. This is a community effort. Community defined as I ask you to do it, you do it. Thank you very much for coming.
That's not very empowering.
That is very empowering. I'm giving you the power to show me the power you have by folding up that chair and putting it against the wall.